What's up, guys? Faruqi Bros here, back with another Built Different stream. And today for you guys, we got a bunch of topics ranging from DC to Marvel and even outside of that. So let's just get right into it and not spare too much time on the introductions as normal. But let's talk about which I consider to be the biggest news of the week, but it kind of fell under the radar. I mean, so we'll talk about this first, get into our own opinions on it. I think we're going to have some varied opinions on this one today. I don't think we're all going to be on the same page, which is good. It's going to provide some healthy debate. So Zack Snyder, there's an exhibit going on in Dallas right now from in the AT&T district, and basically it talks about Snyder's original plan. You can walk in and see all the costumes from Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is premiering this month rather, on HBO Max. But I think the biggest story from this event is definitely Umar. Your phone is like right in front of the camera, yeah. So it is definitely going to be the storyboards, and basically there was gigantic, huge storyboards which were written by Geoff Johns, not written, they were lettered by Geoff Johns, drawn by Jim Lee. And Umar, yes, what's the funny thing right now? Let's just talk. If you have a joke, we share about it.
Yeah, the joke is Sameer's.
Let's start with the joke. Oh, okay.
Sameer's face is the joke.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's Umar, if you want to lead the topic, I can let you lead it. You want to lead the topic?
The topic of Zack Snyder's original plans for Justice League 2 and 3.
Yeah, you want to read the storyboard? Do you want me to do it? I mean,
we're gonna read them.
Not read them, but if you want to,
it's gonna take a while. Why don't you? I'll let you lead it if you want to.
I'll lead it, but you got to be with me. Then you got to be concentrated with me on this one. All right, so getting back to the point. So the biggest news, the biggest thing in this Dallas exhibit was undoubtedly the storyboards that chronicled the entire arc that Zack Snyder created alongside Chris Terrio for Justice League 2 and 3. And this was during Batman v Superman. This was during the time they were filming BVS. They created these multiple storyboards. And it's funny because how long have we known about like some of this stuff? Like at least 3 years? Like where we were told some of the details about what's going on. So continuing on that trek, finally it's revealed to the public. There's a lot to get into, so I don't think we're going to hit all of it, but we'll definitely be getting into some of it. I know Drew in the comments already saying we got to discuss the teasers and the boards, which we definitely will. So let me go through some of the. Let me go through Justice League 2 first, then we can discuss what we thought about Justice League 2, and then we'll get into Justice League 3 and give our thoughts on that as well. So we'll jump piece by piece so that you guys can kind of follow the story. I wanted to actually originally show you guys the boards, but from my understanding, there's a direct copyright on that. So unfortunately, I can't put those images on the screen for you, but what I will do is give you a brief synopsis of what happened. And of course, if you guys are looking for it, it's all Google search away. So basically, the plans for Justice League was Justice League 2 and 2A. And the comparison that was given, this is like a pitch to basically Warner Bros. Executives, was that comparing it to Empire Strikes Back and the Harry Potter films, where it was going to be a big cliffhanger, and then the next film was going to conclude it, right? So I think Harry Potter was the best example of Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 and how they handled that for how they want to do a Justice League. But either way, before we start, it's actually worth knowing that a lot of the ideas have changed. A lot of them will not be in, even if there was a future of Justice League following this movie that's coming out, this idea necessarily won't be used. And if it will be used, there'll be some very broad strokes, but not some of the details. So we can discuss about what details might stay, what details might not. But basically, the second film is very much this, like, I consider like a standard Justice League film where you have the entire league already together facing off against Lex Luthor, who's basically putting together an Injustice League. And he has people like Captain Cold from Flash villain. He has the Riddler from Batman's side. He has Deathstroke. He has Dr. Maru from Wonder Woman 2017, right? Who apparently extended her life by experimenting on herself after the movie. So a lot of stuff pretty dark on that end. And Black Manta and Orm from Aquaman. So it's going to be like everyone coming together under Lex Luthor's vision as they try to get the mother boxes and do whatever Lex Luthor's planning to do, right? So let's stop there first and talk about that concept, because it's a concept that, a lot of people probably would have wanted for a long time, which is Justice League versus Injustice League, everyone's main villains versus everyone's all the main heroes. So Zian, we'll start with you. Like, what do you think about just that basic idea that following up Justice League 1 with Steppenwolf, the second movie is not going to get directly into Darkseid. Rather, it was originally supposed to feature Lex Luthor as the main villain.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the first thing after reading that, brought me straight back to Justice Unlimited season 2, where Lex also created his own Injustice League of sorts. And the final episode, as most people who watched it know, was about Darkseid, where he was trying to bring Brainiac back, but it led into Darkseid, and that kind of bridged those two things together, along with finding the anti-life equation. I felt like that really reminded me of that, so that was great as well. It's very classically inspired, which, like you said, is just the main heroes versus the whole slew of their villains. I think in that sense, it was very, it'd be easy to digest for the audience. But then, of course, Zack Snyder, he has his unique way of adding specific certain things that makes it stand out from everything else. And I'm sure Uma Samir, they'll probably get into that more. But overall, from face value, I thought it looked pretty fun. It looked cool. I actually think what he has now with Zack Snyder's Justice League looks better than his idea for Justice League 2, just in terms of Lex and just group of villains. It felt I won't say cliche, but it felt like all right, it felt like Justice League the anime series, so it felt like familiar, but it still was very cool. And the stuff he was attempting to do alongside it, all the unique and new stuff, that's what really propelled it forward to be like, this could be something crazy and insane and never done before.
You're muted.
As the film kind of went along, they it would kind of touch on these new dynamics, and one of them, probably the most controversial by far, was this relationship that's been brewing between Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane, right? And this is controversial, and I think the four of us are going to have a controversial opinion on the controversy itself. So, number one, what does that first reaction sound like to you, Umar? And I'm trying to make you go back because we actually heard about it a couple of years ago. So, like, where was your first reaction to it, and where do you stand? Like, do you agree with this creative decision? Like, where do you normally stand on this kind of concept?
Like I think that when we found out, which was a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken, then I think at that moment it was more like, okay, it doesn't make sense. Like we didn't understand the full context and the full understanding of it, and where the arc would be taken, and just kind of where would it fit in everything else that's going on. And then at the same time, even after reading the storyboards, and just reading all the stuff that's there, I personally do feel it's a little misplaced. I do feel that there's probably other ways to go with it. I know that like me and Shiraz, when we talked about it, we talked about how, like Superman dies, he comes back to life, and then there's this whole storyline where Lois Lane is having Bruce Wayne's child, and it's just, I don't know, like it's just maybe not the most fleshed out, I guess. And I think that Zach was probably gonna flesh out more of, like, to flesh it out more. There's probably I'm sure that, like, because when we found out about it, it was, we know the exact moment, because our source told us the exact moment when this specific pitch was being made. So, and when it was being made was very early on in the process. And what that means is that, like any movie, the storylines change, they evolve, right?
And we can say it straight up that this was, they were thinking this idea while BVS was still being made. Not even like, we're not talking about BVS coming out. We're talking about when it was shooting in like 2014, 2015.
It was actually the shot of it was the Batman. It was when Bruce was watching the Capitol Hill. I think it was that room. I think that was the room they shot it in, right?
Or that's when that's the room they were thinking about it. Yeah, they're thinking about it at the same time. So, the ideas were coming to fruition at the same time.
Yeah, I personally think that there's probably a better route to go in. Other than that, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's a weird kind of concept. Although I would have still liked to see it, like if they did make and they shot it the way it is, the way it was written, everything. I think it still would have been freaking crazy. It would have been wild. But I do feel that just fleshing out the characters and taking them to new places, just don't see, I wouldn't get, Lois Lane having a child with Bruce Wayne, and then not telling Clark, and then telling Batman the first time around that he's not the father, and then that leading to her death. It just, there's too many things going on that I just think would
Yeah, I think, and it's funny for me because before I go to Samir, I'll just give my opinion and I'll go around the room because this actually, I think this is the linchpin of the biggest controversy in this whole thing. Other than that, it's a good story and there's a lot going for it. But I think it really is kind of pinned around this concept of Bruce and Lois. And I know the first thing people will say is that, okay, this happened in the animated series, right? The first thing you're going to get is that, okay, in Superman, when Superman meets Batman for the first time, Lois and Bruce are actually in a relationship. The only difference is that at that time, Lois didn't know who Superman was. They weren't in a relationship. They just kind of knew each other. Whereas this is like after Superman's death, right? And personally, I also didn't really like this. Like, this is actually one of the few times I think where the creative decision was not like meshing with me. So I personally didn't like the idea either. I thought, and there's people in the comments giving good points because Nathan brings this point up. He said, I like the idea of Clark becoming Jonathan because that's kind of the end point. The end point is that, and we're going to get to Justice League 3 in a second, but the whole point is that Bruce, by sacrificing himself to save his son, he just became his own father, who did the same thing for his son. And Clark, by raising Bruce's son as his own, is kind of like Jonathan raising Jor-El's son as his own, right? So they're kind of becoming their dads. So I get that through line. But some of the details going up to it, I don't know. It didn't do it for me like that. So I wasn't feeling it, and I don't know, Samir. I don't know how you're feeling about it either. So we heard this for a while, but this specific point in the creative line of these two films, how did you feel about it?
Well, I see how he was trying to make the characters, follow the arc of their fathers, kind of. But I just don't see how it would make sense for Lois's character at all. I don't really like this idea overall.
Yeah, I think Zanuck makes a point too. I mean, it feels like it's more servicing Bruce than it is Clark or Lois. Like, both of their characters take a dip to make Bruce's character elevate in his story. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it actually kind of, like Smith pointed, it makes sense. All right, for Bruce's character, where it goes, where even Clark's character will go, but I feel like it kind of hurts Lois's character because, I mean, like you said, they were thinking of this when they're shooting BVS, and we all know how BVS ended, where Clark literally gives her Martha gives her the promise ring or the engagement ring that Clark was gonna give, and then just from that, then she gets with Bruce and has a kid. I feel like it is a little convoluted and it's like unnecessary, and for me personally, it kind of hurts Lois's character in a way because it's like, why even go that direction? But I get to the end. Once you get to the end and see it through, then you see how they both become their fathers and blah, 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 that whole thing. Then it comes together. But I feel like just at one point of them come together and having a kid, I feel like it's just too out there for the story. And I felt like it could have served Lois' character better if that creative decision wasn't in place. And like you said, this was back then. This was what was pre-planned. But if Justice League was to continue now, maybe that part would not be in it. Maybe it'd be changed a little bit or altered in some way, but that we'll have to see.
People in the comments are also making the same point that I thought that if they wouldn't have gone through with the whole thing, it's super early concept, and this is true. Like, again, I can't make sense enough. This pitch actually was being done at BVS's time, and BVS wasn't out yet. And we all know that, and Zach said it himself during the arts festival that happened like 2 years ago, what people call SnyderCon, right? He said that this was a scary idea, right? We knew the scary idea was at the time, but this was the scary idea. And this was what the idea that they said that, people will be riding in the streets, right? And this was that, right? So, and now we're seeing those ideas. And Snyder said on our friend Dave, the Film Junkie's stream on Friday, that this is not like where the story is going now. Like, this is kind of what they were thinking. That's why he doesn't consider it spoilers. So if he doesn't consider the spoilers, I would consider that this is not happening anymore. But it's just, you're looking back and saying, well, this is what the Trek would have been if, I would say, if BVS did well. Like, not well meaning critically. So if BVS was kind of universally loved, I think we would have gotten this kind of Trek. But because BVS didn't do that well with the critics and general audience, then everything had to happen the way it did. And then Chris Terrio did a revised script with Zach, which ended up becoming the Snyder Cut, right? So, and that, which is now Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because look, in this entire script, there's no mention of Joker. There's no mention of Martian Manhunter at all. And both are in the current movie that are coming out. And so you think Martian Manhunter would have been in one of these scripts, right? But he's not. He's not showing up. It's not a script, but it's not showing up in these story pitches, right? So that gives you more understanding that this is not this is more like early concepts, not where they're going. But yeah, I think all four of us kind of agreed that the specific thing about Bruce and Lois, it just didn't hit well with us. So I don't know. But for some of you guys, you might like it. So
I think
I'm saying go ahead.
Yeah, I think the one angle that I think a lot of fans might try to go in that area is like, I do think that at some level it's you're kind of stripping the characters of like any expectation that you would have of like of how the story should go in terms of like the previous material, right? So like you're taking them to places that they probably haven't really gone in a sense, and I do think that it adds a bit of realism when like Lois Lane probably thought he died, like he's dead, like he's not coming back. You know what I'm saying? You move on with life, right? And if Bruce Wayne is protecting this woman, you can kind of make the connections that there's a chance that he might fall in love with her. You know what I mean? So like there's different ways of looking at the same thing, and I do feel that even if this movie was made, I think that because of how Zach does weave through, like the storylines are very much like kind of, he talks about it's a point of view, right? Like for him, his biggest thing is that it's a point of view, and the point of view is the person that's gonna make the whole thing come together. And I do feel that for good or for bad, like I do feel that that is kind of when he's at his best. Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we can move from that to something we didn't like that much, something we really liked, because I love what they did with Riddler in Justice League 2. And first of all, it's very interesting that Riddler would have been, because I'm not sure when they're saying Riddler is here, does that mean he was going to be one of the villains of the actual Batman movie that Affleck was working on or not? Not sure, but apparently there was going to be a Riddler, right? And in this case, Riddler is told by Lex Luthor to solve the anti-life equation, which I thought was very interesting because we've always talked about anti-life equation, what it is, and it's an equation. So it's very funny that Lex would think that, you know what, give it a Riddler to solve it, right? And the second Riddler solves it, he looks at Batman and kills himself. So I find that one of the most craziest moments, and I feel like if, and Drew put the actual line that, what is it, the time to solve the last riddle to Batman, right? And he kills himself, and it's like it's supposed to be a huge what the hell moment when you're watching and you're like, what's going on here, right? So Umar, I know you actually felt this scene was pretty crazy too when we were reading through and talking about it for the first time. You said that this was one of the moments that stood out to you. So tell me about why you liked it so much.
Well, it's just I think I just like the fact that Riddler was used in such a big way, because when we do think about the Riddler, we don't think about him as a character that's so integral to like what's going on. And then I do feel that would have been freaking wild. And just Lex, like this is actually what I wanted to kind of touch on today, was that like Lex Luthor is already a mastermind manipulator in this universe, right? Darkseid, Steppenwolf, this is all because of him, right? Even Batman, Superman, just pitting the heroes against each other. Like he's the mastermind of what is gonna come to be. And for the Riddler to be like just imagine sitting in a theater and seeing that scene, and the Riddler saying that, oh, this is the last riddle that you got to solve, and he just kills himself because he's the one that knows. He solved it. He knows what that equation is, right? He solved the equation. And I just found that's incredibly, it's powerful for that character. Like it's a perfect place to have Riddler in like the biggest in the Justice League kind of, in a Justice League movie.
Yeah. And, as we go, and then we see Lex finally gets all the mother boxes in the third act of Justice League 2. He gets the mother boxes, he puts it together, and he activates the anti-life equation, right, as he turns on the boxes. And then right away, Lex, which is a scene that feels like straight out of the animated series, where Lex was trying to bring Brainiac back, and instead Darkseid shows up, and Lex's whole plan just gets washed right there because he didn't expect Darkseid to pull up. And that was the only time where someone outsmarted Lex, right? So the scene happens where as soon as Lex activates the mother boxes, he thinks he's about to get all powerful. Instead, a boom tube opens and Darkseid pulls up, right? He pulls up and he's like, He's like, "You're messing with the Wu." So that he basically tells Lex that, and like Drew said, he said, "Nah, it's mine, nah, bro." So it's like he pulled the Uno card on him, the reverse. He pulled the reverse, and he goes to the Batcave, right? So things start going down, obviously, and he takes the anti-life equation. So now Darkseid's all powerful, and this is, I guess, what you call the cliffhanger part, which is the Infinity War style cliffhanger. Again, this came before This would have happened before Infinity War, but now we're talking post, like Infinity War, where like you seem like everything's over. Darkseid fights Superman, and Lex Luthor tells him that, listen up, like if you want to break him, you gotta kill Lois. Like you gotta go after Lois, and that's exactly what he does. He kills Lois, and So the end. I was reading the thing really quick to see exactly what happens, and he tells Lex, "I don't want him dead. I want Superman to submit." So that's really Lex's goals. He wants Superman to submit to him, and he kills Lois, and Superman just completely breaks down. And the exact line, I'll read it, says, "Grief-stricken, he moves to tear Darkseid apart, but as Darkseid gazes at him, the power of the anti-life courses through his veins. Superman stops, his mind now infected by Darkseid. Bruce watches it all in horror as Superman's head is in pain, eyes burning," right? So, Zion, like when you hear that moment, we're heading towards the end of the movie. And again, it's not necessarily going to happen anymore, or if there will be very broad strokes. I'm sure there is a point where Superman has to return to the anti-life equation. So I feel like this part of the movie is the closest thing to what would actually happen if they started making a Justice League 2. So give me your thoughts on that moment, like to seeing that happen.
Yeah, I mean, just on the description alone, it's so vivid and so like graphic. I mean, just to see it. For what I think there's an echo in the background, but
okay.
Just if like Umar said, you're sitting in a theater watching this, it'd be like the most insane thing. Like take that feeling we felt when watching Infinity War at the end, where all these people are fading away. Now make that Darkseid who kills Lois and Superman just like breaking down completely. I feel like that would be such an insane scene. It'd be one of the best scenes probably in superhero history, just to see that pain from Superman and see him go down this road, and then of course lead into the nightmare world that comes forward after that. I think that would have just been completely insane. Those kind of things were like, you wish that, if only things were received well back then and we would have gotten that and been at this point now. Then you feel like, if only that happened. But just let's see if they actually go forward with that now. I feel like you said there's the best chance of, if anything's going to be taken from those storyboards and like ideas, things like that, obviously the best chance to, because you can bring that in, you can show that, and it leads perfectly into what the nightmare world is and what happens thereafter. And it just shows the brutality and craziness of Darkseid as a villain. And it's really just an insane way of just bringing him into this world and just making him, like, putting a huge statement that, all right, this is Darkseid, and this is not somebody you mess with, and this is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, and then we get to the section where it's, again, the equivalent, I would say, the Infinity War scene of everyone kind of fading away, which is Lex Luthor's plan was to kill all the Justice League members one by one. So the other members actually do their job. So there would have been like a montage sequence where Dr. Maru from Wonder Woman, she would have went to Themyscira and unleashed a gas that kills all the Amazons, including Wonder Woman. So that's Wonder Woman's death scene. And then in Atlantis, it shows that Orm and Black Manta kill Aquaman at the coronation, right? And then in Central City, Cyborg is blown in half by some kind of weapon that Captain Cold has, and Flash barely escapes with his life. And then finally, you have Batman, who just watches Superman get taken over, and Lex now is in a position where he basically won. So Lex is feeling like he got this in the bag, except the final sequence is Superman looking at Lex Luthor and basically melting him. So that would have been Lex Luthor's death scene, right? So Samir, like, when you hear about this like montage sequence in the end where it's like all the League members one by one are either getting killed or getting pushed away, what did you think about that concept for Justice League 2 as a big cliffhanger?
I think it's a good concept. I think it's really out there. I do think it's way too early to be doing this in this universe. I I think if they were going to do this arc, it should have been like much later in the universe.
Right. So Umar, what about you, man? When you think about again this multiple death scene sequence happening now, like I don't know if you heard, but if you heard that part of you,
Yeah, I did.
yeah. So
my take is a simple one, and it's the opposite of Samir, which is that I would rather not watch 50 solo movies that I like sleep through them and watch them, and then then we get to the. I'd rather just get that part now. You know what I mean? So I'm not a fan of, and just imagine the kind of reactions you would be getting in the theater, like of these types of things happening, like, and the Justice League failing, basically losing, and you're watching them.
I think the death of Wonder Woman in particular, would have hit really hard for the audiences.
Exactly, partly because of how her character is viewed. Right? Imagine seeing this character that kind of always has basically won her whole life. Like we've seen Superman die, right? So you kind of get it, but I think that the main thing with this sequence would be that would be just that the Justice League failed, and it's not like Thanos snapping and then everyone just kind of half the heroes just disappearing. They're dying. They're being killed. Like you'd watch it on screen, like they're
getting killed by their main villains, kind of,
Exactly. So it's not the same. It's not the same type of thing. It's not like
and actually one point I was making to Samir, because he's actually mentioning that like how the universe is built, but actually in timeline wise, if a whole plan was correctly, then Rick Famuyiwa would have done the Flash movie with Cyborg and Flash together versus Captain Cold, which would have set up Captain Cold. Ben Affleck's Batman movie would have already coming out, so you established Batman. Wonder Woman would have at least gotten 1 to 2 movies. And then I think that's it. We wouldn't have gotten a Cyber movie yet. So I think they were like, if this was happening, they would have had at least some solos where it's like now when you're looking back, you're like, okay, there's still no Flash solo, there's no that. So actually, in a sense, both concepts work. There's someone waiting for solo movies.
You mentioned it in the storyboards. He wrote that in Wonder Woman in this.
Yeah, let me completely break away from this topic for a second, because I want to have fun with someone in the comments, because Mr. Enigmatic Swaroop, is that I'm going to say your name? Why do I feel like if I type in Hindi Urdu, these guys will understand? What's it's quite the assumption you're making there. Quite the assumption. But for that, you're going to go into the timeout. Nice and easy. All right. So we were on the topic.
Let me just take a point about I feel like the montage obviously sounds so insane, but like we know the reality, and even today, if there's a chance for it to come out, just the way the horrific nature of it, of these characters, of these heroes, one by one getting killed. And like Umar said, it's not like Infinity War where they just go away into dust. They're going to be graphically shown like, all right, these people are being killed or dying. And especially with Superman, like just heat visioning Lex into nothing, like things like that, though it sounds so amazing and we wish we could have seen it. I feel like even today, things like that, he would not get the green light on. Like they would not want the heroes to be decimated and shown in this kind of fashion, like so badly destroyed. I feel like if it would be done, it wouldn't be done as explicitly as he probably would want it to be done.
I mean,
I do wonder if they were going to do, let's say they take this part of the idea and translate it to Zack Snyder Justice League 2. And again, we haven't seen Justice League, so we don't know exactly where are you going with the end of the story. We have ideas, but we don't know the full, right? So if you had to replace characters, because I don't think you would use Captain Cold anymore if there hasn't been a Flash movie in the middle. And likewise, I don't think you would use Dr. Moreau either anymore because of how long it's been. Like, do you replace Dr. Moreau with Cheetah? Do you replace Riddler with Deathstroke? Do you replace do you make those adjustments on the fly, or do you replace Riddler with Joker? Like, let Joker's like that scene be there or something like that. I don't know, but like Joker's in Nightmare sequence, that whole idea falls apart. But if you make those live adjustments, like if you were gonna put it together, obviously, I'm just saying with the Lex Luthor part because Umar made a good point in the beginning of this, saying that how he's the biggest mastermind. I mean, just imagining Jesse Eisenberg getting another chance to actually pull off the full Luthor, like the half of BVS was him coming into his own, and you only get Lex Luthor for the end sequence where he's talking to Bruce about like how the bell's already been rung, where he's kind of like, oh, I'm insane, I'm not fit to stand trial. He's playing head games with Bruce, telling him, civilization on the wane, manor on the wind, I know you're Bruce. We know from the little Batman teaser trailer that came out last week, he said, oh, if you want the Batman, here's something you should know. You can make it put together. He's gonna tell Deathstroke, go after Bruce Wayne. Like he tells Deathstroke his traitors. Like that's the real Lex. And I feel like this movie at the minimum would have given you like a crazy Lex Luthor. Like he would have been like up there as one of the like if you had been goaded by just pulling it off, even though in the end Superman would kill him. But this it would still be very interesting to kind of like pull it all together. Personally speaking. So then you get to the end of Justice League 2, and pretty much you have that 5 years later sequence where the surviving members of the League, Batman, the Flash, Cyborg, and they look up and they say, look, we need to get inside, he's coming, right? I feel like, and Umar, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this scene might get put into Justice League. I think he took some pieces of Justice League 2. Remember, the additional sequence we know is the Joker sequence. They shot a sequence with Joker in the Nightmare timeline. What if this 5 years later, they put that at the end of this Justice League movie? In a sense, you almost like skip Justice League 2 completely, in a sense, not really, but you put that scene, because in the end we know there's gonna be a scene where Bruce looks at Joker and Joker's gonna give him the society speech and all that, right? So that has to happen at some point, and it gets to happen in the end, right? It's gonna happen in the end. So do you think that this 5 year later sequence, which would have been the ending of Justice League 2, is being put into Justice League 1? Or do you think that I'm not seeing this the right way?
No, no. Here's what I think. I think that it's gonna be a variation of that. Like it's gonna be a variation of that. But also the problem comes is that the timeline and just the way he shot it too, and I don't know how much he's gonna manipulate what he already had. Because the thing is, one thing we've learned, right, is like it sucks that I have to bring up the other cut, but with the other cut, like one thing you can kind of fairly like say very safely is that the footage can be manipulated like crazy. Like you can literally mess with like the whole thing, and because they spent a lot of money and time on fixing everything again, we just don't know. That's like which is exciting because with Justice League, I feel like we know more about Justice League 2 and 2A more than like Zack Snyder's Justice League, the one we're gonna see. So I don't know. I would be kind of the 5 years later thing. I don't think they're gonna put it at the end of this one. I'd be kind of surprised if they showed it, but there might be a variation of that. It depends. It depends what he's doing, like what he's trying to do with the timeline.
I think the best place is to put it at the end, because this is like just in a breakaway from story, just in an overviewing sense of the film itself. If you want to build crazy hype from the fans and make people want and ask Warner Brothers or AT&T rather, we want a sequel, we want more. You drop a big cliffhanger like that at the end, or at least a scene that will make people want to say, I want to see what's going to happen next, or I want to keep going, rather than it just be like all wrapped up in a bow and just ends of the Justice League looking out into like the sunset from the scene, like we all know that where they're all standing together. I think leaving it off on a cliffhanger note would be the best way for fans and even who aren't fans who are just watching this movie to be like, now I want to see more. What does this lead into, and what's going to come next? Where is the next movie? Having a cliffhanger at the end is the best way to build up that hype even more.
Right, and let's just get into Justice League 3 now, or Justice League 2A. This will be a little shorter, but I get a sense before we get into it that we're going to have, again, a little bit of varied opinions on this, because I also feel some type of way about some of these creative decisions. I like some of it I don't like as much, and I feel like this last part is controversial. Like now you're getting into like more controversy of like how are you ending the story, right?
More than Bruce and Lois? I don't think so.
On level, because it's a continuation of that, right? The second part of that happens here. So, and I'm actually, that's why I'm bringing it up, because the Bruce and Lois thing inevitably comes back in this movie. But to give you guys the quick synopsis, Green Lantern would have showed up in this part of the movie. It would have been Hal Jordan. It would have been a lot of stuff going on. It could have been John Stewart. He didn't really say, but the pictures of Jim Lee drew, it seemed like Hal Jordan. And then the whole League regroups. The entire movie, the majority of which takes place in the Nightmare sequence. And we heard a lot about these ideas where Flash will basically go back in time to warn Bruce of what's happening. The first time he made a mistake, and this time he's going to do it the right way, because you can only go back to them once a year, apparently, in this universe, right? So basically, Flash goes back now, and this time tells Bruce that Lois is the key, and like, you're the father. Like, basically, he Maury Povich is, Batman at that point. So he tells him this is what's going on. You're the dad of, and here at this point he didn't know. And the moment I skip is in Justice League 2, Lois tells Bruce, "You're not the father," and then Bruce feels frustrated, and that at the same time, Darkseid comes down to kill her, so he doesn't make the split-second decision. With this new information, now when Lois tells him again, "You're not the father," he knows in his head he is, or whatever like that, right? And then he takes the Omega Beam. He jumps in front of Lois to take the hit, right? Which means he dies. Now he dies. He gets critically injured. But because of that, now when Superman pulls up, he's not grief-stricken, but he's enraged in a different way. So he gets like they say he's like an empowered rage where he knows Batman's about to die, but he's gonna like fight for him now. And now he fights Darkseid, and it works out this time around. This time around it's working out. And then not only that, the entire Earth unites around Superman. And what's the theme here is that, like Justice League 1, the Age of Heroes scene where the Amazons and the Atlanteans and the humans, they all come together. The same thing happens where the Amazons, Atlanteans, and humans come together again. And this time Superman is the one that leads the entire world against the parademons. And to save all the League members, Superman goes to Themyscira to stop Dr. Maru. Superman stops Orm, Black Manta. Like, Superman alone just takes care of everybody. So it's like he just takes care of everybody himself. He's like, I got this now, So he got it. He took care of all the villains. Basically, he just kind of takes care of everything. So, and then Darkseid gets whooped. And that's pretty much the end of it. And then we come to the end of it, which is, I guess, the controversial part. There's a 20 years later time skip at the exact ending, right? And they're commemorating Batman's sacrifice, and Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, who's commissioner now, and she asked Lois that, "Are you going to tell your son who his real father is?" Which I felt was kind of weird, because after 20 years, not telling him, like, now you're going to tell him. Okay, you can tell him. This whole time the son was thinking he's Superman's son. Okay, that's okay. But and the implication is that once she tells him who his real father is, he becomes the next Batman. And the final sequence is very similar to The Dark Knight Rises, where like the new Batman rises. And the same thing here, from the shadows, you see a new Batman walk out. And it's supposed to be the son of Superman, the son of Batman, the son of Batman, the adopted son of Superman, and the son of Lois, right? So, and that's the ending of the entire Zack Snyder universe as it stands. So,
you could literally tell it's a very early, like it's just a very early thing that they came up with. I bet you anything, like at the end of when they shot Justice League, like when they finished shooting Justice League, the ideas were totally different. Like the idea now is probably totally different.
Much, yeah. I think broad strokes will be used. So some basic concepts that Zack was thinking about.
Bro.
Yeah, Riddler's so some basic concepts will be used. Some characters will be used, some theories will be used, and you guys in the comments can sound off like which ones you think are more likely to be used. Like, from all these scenes, in my opinion, the stuff that feels like you got to do it is the Riddler move, the general Lex Luthor idea of coming together. Superman has turned evil, so Lois has to die one way or another. Whether whether she dies in this movie or not, that remains to be seen. But something has to happen to Lois. We make Superman go crazy because you got to fulfill the nightmare loop. I think Flash going back in time, that's all going to happen, because anything that BVS actually shot, I think they're going to see it through. I think some of the parts of whose son it is it Batman's son or is it actually Superman's son? I think that'd be interesting. I think if Bruce sacrifices himself to save Superman's son, I think that's a very interesting concept. I think it's just as powerful in many ways than him sacrificing for his own son. Like he still feels like the empathy that he will kill himself. Not kill himself. He will sacrifice himself for the person he loves. He can still love Lois, but I don't like the idea of Lois potentially loving him back. So that's something that still didn't stick with me.
I think personally, I think the idea sounds good. I think the idea sounds good. Not the idea of just the Batman son, whatever, but I think just the whole idea of Flash coming back and them all, the armies of the world rallying around Superman, who's just like this one leader leading Earth against Darkseid. I feel like that just sounds so cool, and just being able to see that on screen would be amazing. And it would be Lord of the Rings-esque, where all the armies are fighting together, but they're all like behind Isildur, who is fighting Sauron. I feel like that would be so sick to see. And just tweak, if they just tweak the part about Lois and Bruce and just change it, all right, that is actually Clark's child. I feel like that would be much better, and they could still have the same thread of, like you said, Bruce sacrificed himself, which is we all know Batman's character. He's like that. He would sacrifice himself to save the world, and him doing that, knowing if Flash warns him about this nightmare universe to come, him making that step to save Lois just to prevent that from happening makes perfect sense in his character, and then he could still be honored that same way if they do like a flash forward 20 years later, any way they want to.
Yeah.
But the idea of the totality sounds good.
That's a
Yeah, and
must.
some of the comments saying that, to be honest, they'll do any of the Lois stuff because Lois is reduced to a love interest, whereas it's funny because just like 2, Lois seems like a very main character. Like she's out there investigating Lex, so I feel like she is more than just a love interest. But I think some of it, like she's being distilled between Superman and Batman, it does kind of read weird to me sometimes. Like I'm reading, I'm like, I don't know if it's like gelling well. That's why I feel like if they just took that out, like again, if Bruce falls in love with Lois, that's on him, like he can do what he wants. But I think Lois, like just being in her own mindset and being like she's gonna stick to what she is.
See,
I think that'd be I think that's cooler for me.
Wouldn't those seeds be set up in Justice League 1?
It would
like-
be, yeah.
Yeah, like if they're something's supposed to happen, right? Wouldn't it happen between Clark's death and his resurrection in this
Yeah.
movie? Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
happen unless he dies like twice, which would be kind of
Yeah, basically, if this movie doesn't set anything up, then don't expect this idea to even have any merit.
And,
And I don't think it will personally, but we never know.
He said at the SnyderCon that he didn't shoot any of the hard idea,
The scary idea, yeah.
scary idea. So which means it's not shot even. So there's no way to actually. He's
Yeah, I
going
mean,
in a
there's-
different way. Like they're gonna.
There
go-
could be some additional sequences. I think Lois' death is going to be probably a linchpin because Superman has turned evil. But I don't know about the rest, honestly. But and John, you mentioned Lord of the Rings because literally in the storyboard it says in a Lord of the Rings like finale. So I guess it's like the Black Gate where Aragorn is walking to the Black Gate, and it's like the entire army of men from no matter what creed you're from, if you're Rohan or if you're from Gondor or if you're where you're from, you have elves in there, you got dwarves in there, you got everybody come together for a single cause to beat Sauron, right? That's gonna be very similar. And then to your point, Umar, Drew did mention that Lois was in additional photography, so you never know what exactly they shot, but from my understanding, it's something quite small. And again, if they just shoot, for example, Darkseid coming after Lois without any of the seeds set up between Bruce, then I think you can still keep the universe intact of what the Nightmare sequence looks like. But again, Superman did tell, for the contrarian, Superman did tell Bruce that, she was my world and you took her from me. So we don't know exactly what that entails either. But that's kind of the scope of these 2 movies. Do you think, and this is the last question before we move on, do you think if Justice League 2 happens, that these 2 movie ideas should be followed more closely, or should they only take the bits and pieces they need to form like a bigger story? Anyone can go.
I already said that I wouldn't even mind if they actually just made these. I wouldn't mind because the thing is like I'm interested in seeing like what he wanted to do. Like I could care less about because the thing is a lot of scenes that even in Batman v Superman, like one of the reasons that movie was so polarizing is because yes, there are scenes that people don't agree on. Like he makes movies in that way, right? He makes them from his point of view. I don't mind seeing even the what those storyboards say. Now he's not doing that anyways. So I would say that because that's the reality in which we live in, I'd still want to see a lot of the stuff that he's come up with, especially the Riddler stuff, especially the Lex stuff. I think Batman has to sacrifice himself at the end. I think that's like a must, just for his character. Like his character arc needs to end with that sacrifice. It's the right thing to do. So these type of things, I think, follow these big broad strokes, and then like some things obviously change them up. You could mess around with like how you want to do it, and I'd honestly love to see all the characters die. That's something I would love to see.
I think
Have them
everything
lose.
works. Pretty much everything works. Just tweak the Lois Bruce relationship. That's it. Have Flash come back. Just tell him Lois is the key because Darkseid will kill him and then Superman will go down this path in whatever way they have to. But don't make Batman jump in the way because they had a kid or he's the father, whatever.
Also, you
Cut
took
that
her
part
from
out.
me.
Yeah, well, I guess you can retcon that. I mean, it's just one throwaway line. It's not, but I feel like everything else works. Everything else, if they put it out from now, it would still be just as cool and just as amazing. Just tweak that part, and I won't have any issues with it.
And Samir, take us home on this topic when it comes to like what if should they be using? Do you think they should be following the script closer, or do you think they should be going as far as away from it and doing something different after Jail 1?
I completely agree with Jan. Just scrap the low stuff completely.
Yeah,
The lowest,
and in my opinion, would also be to scrap the lowest stuff. Personally, I mean, again, whatever. In the end, it's an artistic vision. If they go with it, then it will just take it at face value, see how we feel about it, and we give our honest opinion. But I think from these boards, the way that's like being, the way I'm consuming it by just reading it, it's not reading right with me, just the lowest stuff. Other than that, I feel like the other stories, Superman becoming the champion of Earth, all perfect. Riddler killing himself to prove a point to Batman. Batman sacrificing himself, all good, all good, all good. Flash being who he is, like just they said, Flash gets so powerful at the end that he's in two places at once. Like he just pulled, like similar to WandaVision, which we'll get to in a second. But I think there's a lot of good stuff that could happen on that level. So let's move on from Justice League and get into WandaVision as we head into our last 15 minutes or so. WandaVision spoiler review. So first of all, in the comments, I mean, chat, what do you guys think about WandaVision? Do you think this finale left you kind of did you like the finale? Did you leave it like it's not that great? I don't know. Like I feel like all four of us have a different opinion also on this one. So I'll go first. So I thought WandaVision, I mean, I say a lot, so it's a little broken record. I thought WandaVision is a very unique show. It's very unique, and it's a good way to start Phase 4. And it does everything you need Phase 4 to do for the most part, which is be unique, do something different, break the mold, try something specific with a vision, and then do something cool, right? And then I feel like for the most part, like I would probably grade to see it was like an 8 out of 10 overall. I think it did what it needed to do. But we're talking about the finale. I thought the finale was a little underwhelming, right? Personally. And I think a few reasons were that expectations were way too high. Just the night before, the Faruqi brothers, where we were with Eric Davis on Twitter Spaces, and we were discussing the finale, and we had people coming up saying, "Is Tobey Maguire going to show up?" That's the level the expectations were on that Spider-Man was going to pull up. And then we had the what was considered a baseline was Doctor Strange showing up. That was the baseline, right? So this goes under the baseline, and even more so if you talk about Quicksilver. So I feel like in many ways people felt underwhelmed by that. And not to mention Wanda's character, I feel like, was there enough consequence to her actions? Because in the end, she did enslave an entire community. And then when she leaves, she just like dips. So like, all right, I'm out of here. Like she still did it, you know, but so I don't know, like, yeah.
In my opinion, they also didn't really deal too much with like the full aspect of what she was going through. Like they just didn't flesh out the last 2
episodes or so, yeah.
And it was mid. It was incredibly mid. Like, and the writing wasn't the greatest. Like, I don't know what happened, but the writing in this episode compared to like the episode before was just not it. Yeah, Agatha is weird. She's just weird. Like, I don't know what the hell she wanted. She wanted her power, right? That's what she wanted. And like she was trying to get it, but it just didn't work out. Like it was just, I don't know, it just didn't work. Like.
Yeah, and basically just like how Terry mentioned, just Monica basically absolving her. Like one person was the judge and jury and said, "Oh, you're good. You head out." You know, and she's like, "I'm out of here." You know, I guess she's putting herself in a self kind of prison exile, like going to the mountains and just staying there. You know, in the end of the show. But I don't know, Samir, what did you think about his ending was going in particular? I mean, what did you like? What did you didn't like? Basically like
that. I thought it was super underwhelming. Of course, the whole show started off really good, had a lot of potential, but then it just fell flat on its Marvel face. with the
that's the best point. I think Zal will make that point too, because I think they're going. What they did was they went back to the formula at the end. Like we kept saying that, oh, this show is good because it doesn't follow the formula, and what they did was follow it. Zen, why don't you take us on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they did. The show started out unique, and they kept doing unique things, fourth wall breaking type things, which made it interesting. And then for the final episode, they basically said, let's throw away all of that and just go back to the regular MCU tropes with jokes and quips. And I feel like the Quicksilver thing was the most egregious of them all. It was like so juvenile almost. It's like, what do you think? Who wrote this? It was such bad writing, like the play on his name. And I felt like it almost ruined the entire episode. I was like, this episode is a 0 out of 10, 0 out of 5, just because of that. Because just that's not how did the show go from Wanda being this kind of this horrific element part of the show where what's happening to Vision, how is he alive, Wanda controlling these, enslaving these people, to then going to Quicksilver in his name, and that was just a whole throwaway. It was a waste. The whole bringing the actor just for that joke, it was pretty much a waste. And then, like you said, there's zero accountability. What she did was 1,000 times worse than what the Sword Agent did, but yet he got cuffed and Wanda got to fly away free for not answering for her crimes, even though the people in the town deserve some retribution for what she did to them. And like you said in the comments, the Agatha, her whole purpose was so weak, and she was just such a better character when there was a mystery surrounding her. I guess that's the biggest problem with the show. Once the mystery unraveled, it became generic MCU film number one, Ant-Man 3, basically. It was like just really bad. Disappointing is probably the best way to say it. The theories surrounding it obviously hurt because the hype was so high of what could happen, what can they show to tease the future, and even the tease itself was so weak. It was a disappointing ending.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting point that Rasha made right now. I was bringing back on the screen, where it's like the whole beginning of the show, Jimmy Woo, that's his name. But so he went and he said, "I'm going to find a the witness protection person." So you start by saying there's somebody in that town who is not who they say they are, and that literally could have been Quicksilver. And they didn't pay it off. Like, I don't know what was going on. Like, where was the payoff there? I think at the minimum, we were talking about the multiverse and how this movie will start the multiverse and Doctor Strange is going to fulfill it. But now it's kind of just Doctor Strange is going to do it because this movie didn't really do this show didn't really do the multiverse after all.
It's worse. It's worse because they pulled a Far From Home where it's like, oh, it's about the Skrulls and whatever. And I know a lot of people are excited for that, but I personally don't care about the Skrulls. And that's actually part of what made Far From Home such a bad movie.
Umar, where do you kind of stand on this one? I mean, you said it was mid, but like just expectations wise, do you think the finale was the worst episode of the whole series?
Yeah, I think after hearing Zian's take, his very passionate take about how it was so bad, I think you've kind of won me over. But I think that like while I was watching it, I was just like, kind of like it's like the middle of what Samir's opinion is and what Zian's opinion is, like the middle of that, where there's so much potential that just got lost in the whole process. And then also just like even the Vision's freaking writing was garbage. Like the Vision's writing, like the writing where Vision's talking to the other Vision, he's like, "Hey man, like we gotta do this," and he's like telling him like, at first like yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, the only disappointing thing is because it was genuinely. I mean, I'm not like making it up, but it was a good show. Like, I mean, there were moments where when the highs were being hit, we came here every week, discuss every episode, and we would be like, "Yo, the episode where they first introduced Quicksilver, we're like, they're doing crazy stuff now. They're doing crazy stuff." And it's like it's funny because since the Quicksilver reveal, it's kind of been you went up to a peak and it's going down and down and down. And then I did, for its worth, I did like the episode where she was like reliving her past with Agatha. I thought that was good because at least set up that okay, she had her powers before the Mind Stone, so she is a mutant, kind of like they're kind of saying she was a mutant. But unfortunately, the ending just felt like it was a Phase 2 movie, and it felt like it was just very by the numbers. Here's your battle. Here's the final battle. I did like the post-credit scene. I did like Wanda like reading a book, and then at the same time she has a projection of herself like drinking tea, so she's gotten really powerful now. And obviously in Doctor Strange 2, they'll get some more stuff. I think by far like a closing thought on this show is that Elizabeth Olsen was a really good actress. Like she killed it in this series. More than anyone else did, more than Paul Bettany as Vision. I think how she kind of just fell into each decade, every single role she was playing, virtually a different character every single episode, but still keeping the through line that she is this tragic figure. I think she did a great job. And even in the finale, I think when she finally got her suit, she's finally Scarlet Witch now. I think it worked. Like I like her acting in this. I think Umar, you mentioned also like her acting was like one of probably the best parts of the show so far, and I think it sticks with it.
It's just the versatility in her approach, like just being able to play the same character in like multiple different ways in multiple different settings with multiple different accents. Like that's something you gotta respect. You gotta give it to her on that. That you know what, she did a good job, and that's why I do think that with Doctor Strange, I'm excited to see kind of what she does with that. Like,
what she does under Sam Raimi's direction, I think. Put a director like Sam Raimi and then give an actress like her. I think you're setting yourself up something much bigger and better than the show. And then overall, I personally rate the show 8 out of 10. If you want to go around the room, like what did you give it? The whole series, like not just the episode. Like what did you give the show?
I'll give it a solid 7.5.
Yeah, I think 8 is fair. I think just the weakest point was the ending.
Yeah, I agree. 8 out of 10.
All right, so 3 8s and 1 7.5. So we're all basically on the same page. Let's quickly jump into and I'm gonna solo handle this quick bit, but we actually attended a press conference for Raya and the Last Dragon, where we kind of sat down with the cast virtually and kind of understood what they got a chance to hear what they were thinking about the role and how they feel about what's been happening. But it was important to know, and I'm gonna but do this topic on a little more serious note, because one of the main themes of the press conference was the rise of hate against Asian Americans in this country following the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, when the coronavirus happened, you had the president at the time saying it was a China virus, which will create will distill a level of hatred in the community who are going to be supporting him, and therefore Asians were subjected to more hate. There's a lot more hate crime spike even now in 2021. So a thing that was discussed in the press conference was very much this idea that these movies can at least help the youth. And if the youth are being bullied at school, which I guess you're doing Zoom meetings, so you're not bullied the same way, but if you're getting name called and stuff like that following the pandemic, you're going to be called names, especially if you're Asian. These kind of movies, you're going to see yourself on screen like an avatar of yourself, and maybe it'll help in some ways. And that was, even though they were recording this movie before this stuff happened, now that it's like coming out, I felt like the whole cast, especially Kelly Marie Tran, who played Raya, she felt very much like, okay, she owes, like she's putting her heart into this because it can help the youth in some way. So that's just a point I wanted to make as before we move to the next topic, that it was a great movie. So if you have watched it, we reviewed it. I reviewed it actually personally on Rotten Tomatoes, but you guys, if you want to watch it, it's out now. So
I mean, it's just about having, I know we discussed also in terms of Muslims in media, just having a positive representation of different cultures and different races. I think that serves really well. And like the cast group said, just having this at this time, though, before it was happening, this stuff wasn't happening when they recorded it, but this just releasing at this time gives it that much more importance to the message it's sending.
And now we like to usually end on a funny note, and I think Space Jam 2 is kind of funny, so let's end on that. So Space Jam 2, I said new footage, but really it's new. It's new photos that dropped, and unfortunately I only put one in here, but we'll just talk about the CGI and stuff like that. So this new photo of Mickey Mouse, what am I saying, dude?
What's wrong with you?
It's not Mickey Mouse, right? It's Bugs Bunny. Okay, but okay, we're doing a Kingdom Hearts run, so obviously in my brain I'm thinking, okay, like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, you got Kingdom Hearts on the mind right now.
All right, yeah, okay. This is Bugs Bunny, iconic Warner Brothers character, Bugs Bunny. He is here, and this is his new design for Space Jam. From my understanding, the whole movie will not be CGI, but it's just pieces of it will be CGI, pieces will be animated. So, number one, do you like the animation on? I mean, do you like the style? And Samir, you're our creative guy, so we'll start with you. Do you like the style of Bugs?
I like the CGI. I like the texture on his fur, but I don't see how switching between animation and this will work out. But I guess we'll have to see.
I feel like when the game starts, the actual basketball game, they're gonna switch animation to CGI. But there's other concept arts, like concept posters, which shows LeBron, but with the animated versions, like how there was with Michael Jordan. But and then for Umar, I'll give you the LeBron question. I mean, what do you think about the fit, like this jersey? You know,
it's nice. It's nice, honestly. There's nothing. I don't know. Actually,
what about LeBron in general? LeBron got his hairline back for this. I mean, it's this whole thing going on here, you know?
Yeah, LeBron James looks like. To be honest, his hairline still looks kind of receding, but that's neither here nor there. He's still the greatest player ever. It's called what it is.
I mean, okay, I agree with that. But so, Zion, what do you think? I mean, I think you're more hyper. You have a lot more hyperbole when it comes to Space Jam 1. We all know it's a classic, but your expectations must be kind of low for Space Jam 2. I mean, the bar is low then for you if you don't like Space Jam 1. But do you think this movie, because you've said on record on the pod a few times now that like you think it's gonna be a corporate product, and you're comparing it to that Durant movie that I don't remember how bad it was. It flopped.
Thunderstruck?
So yeah, Thunderstruck. John was comparing it to Thunderstruck. So I was saying that this is not Thunderstruck, but now just seeing some more footage, I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself or not. So you're on the record again. What do you think about this footage?
The pictures look great and the CGI looks great, but it still doesn't indicate anywhere that it's not going to be a cash grab. Just to throw in sponsorships and Warner Brothers products and other media related things, just to build hype and just advertise them within the movie. I feel like that's what it's gonna be. It won't be like at least Space Jam 1, no matter how good or bad it was, it felt real. You know, at least the character interactions felt real between like Larry Bird and Michael Jordan, they're playing golf. Like those are real scenes. I appreciate those scenes.
There's gonna be real scenes. There's gonna be real scenes.
This movie is gonna be like it's gonna be bad. I feel like the comedy is also gonna fall short. And let's just see what happens. But my bar is very, very low, so it can only be good coming out of this because my expectations are non-existent.
All right, first of all, there's going to be real scenes. That's number one. There's a lot of NBA players who are going to be in this. They're going to be doing a lot of stuff. Okay, and then there's some good cast members. I don't know. They said that he's going to be traveling through different movies, like almost like that Steven Spielberg movie that came out.
Sounds like easy advertisement to me.
They said LeBron's going to show up in Wonder Woman. Like Samir said, he's going to show up in the Wonder Woman movie. LeBron's going to show up in The Shining, I think, or maybe I misread. Oh, and Mad Max. Yeah, so he's going to be pulling up.
Show up. What are you talking about?
The Entertainment Weekly did a whole breakdown of the movie, the plot, and it's very different from Space Jam 1. Instead of like the Monstars versus Warner Brothers, it's like all the Warner Brothers products are in this. Like, for example, Hagrid is in this, okay? Harry Potter is in this, and Wonder Woman's in this, and Joker's in this, and DC's in this. It's a crazy kind of movie. They're doing all type of stuff. So, like, Pennywise is in this movie. I can't explain. This movie's literally going to be goated, but no one understands, right?
Joker in the movie too?
Yes, yeah. So the Flash might be in it. I'm telling you, everyone might be in it. I mean, I don't know who's probably not the real actors, but there's gonna be a sequence where LeBron's gonna be in a scene from Wonder Woman, the first one. I don't know which scene. Or it'd be kind of cool if he was in the No Man's Land scene. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how and what context.
What would he be doing? Dribbling a basketball? Like, what are you talking about?
He'd be helping Wonder Woman out. What are you talking about? Zion, someone's calling you on the comments. I'm gonna put it out for you.
Listen, I mean, Shiraz and Umar, they always say the same line to me as well, but I'd rather have this. It was just one throwaway line in the middle, and it's also kind of funny because it's on the nose, but them going through all these Warner Brothers properties, it's like, all right, you're just advertising what you have, and it's just so, I don't know, it's so disingenuous.
Was Ready Player One disingenuous?
That's different. That doesn't count. It's not following something, but this has to pay respect to what Space Jam 1 was.
It literally won. I think it's gonna be a full reboot. I don't think they even mentioned Michael Jordan one time. It'd be
opening
cool.
It's opening up the Warner Brothers multiverse. What are you talking about?
All right, listen. If they don't, that would be the worst. If there's no line where it's like Bugs Bunny and them are coming to find Michael and Caesar's retired, I'm gonna give the movie 0 out of 10. They have to address that Michael was with them, but now he retired and they need to find somebody else. If they don't do that, that'd be so bad.
Listen, Michael Jordan is not in this movie. I think they said the thing. He didn't cameo. There's no cameo of Michael Jordan. They might mention him that, oh, where's MJ? But I don't think they can even use his name without paying him. So I don't think it's gonna happen.
They better pay him because at least his name, they have to mention him. Otherwise, it's like then it's even more cheap cash grab just to harken back on nostalgia.
It's gonna be the best movie of the year.
So you don't want them to retcon the movie you hate already?
I don't hate the original Space Jam, but I know I'm gonna dislike this more than that one.
I disagree with Zion.
Me too.
And like put some respect on Space Jam's name. They tried to get Michael Jordan for the movie, but Michael Jordan said no because they're not offering a lot of money. I mean, it's Jordan. He's gonna ask for the bank for even coming for a 1 second scene.
It took him like 13, 12 years to get him on 2K even.
Do you know how much money I think this is a completely off topic, but the amount of money they paid Jordan to get his rights for 2K apparently it was like the boat. Like they give him everything, you know. Like 2K put into debt to pay Michael Jordan to show up in the game. Who are the other players? I think they said who it's Anthony Davis in the movie. Chris Paul's in the movie.
Steph Curry.
Lillard, Curry, yeah, Curry. There's a lot of the current players. I think Dwayne Wade's gonna cameo in it. There's a lot of people gonna be in that movie. So, and it's supposed to like. I think this. Am I spoiling? I say the opening sequence at the All-Star game, and they're gonna like. It's like at the All-Star game, they're gonna pull LeBron or something. Like I'm pretty sure that's how it's gonna go down. But okay. Either way, LeBron's been shooting this movie for two straight seasons now, and it's coming out finally this summer. So we'll see how it goes. I would love for the movie to be a reason why, like you can't say in the past too much. I would like originally be like set it like do a real story thing. In Jordan, they said the reason he left baseball to come back to NBA after his first retirement was the Space Jam movie. So it really tied together. I don't know if LeBron they're gonna say this is why he went back to Cleveland or this is why he went to LA. But I think it'd be cool. I digress. We've talked about all our topics. So we appreciate you guys jumping on board with us today. But I'm noticing we had a good amount of people who are with us in the afternoon. So in the comments, let me know if you guys actually prefer like afternoon streams versus evening streams, because if we see that people actually prefer and jump on more in the afternoon, then we might actually move out of the evening. But if you like our evenings today, we're actually, I don't even talking about LeBron. The reason we're actually pulling back is because we want to watch the All-Star game together at night. So so we'll let you know if you guys enjoy like the afternoon streams. Let us know in the comments. We definitely appreciate any kind of feedback you have to improving our game, of course, because it's always like a marathon to improve every day. But like I always say, if this is your first time joining the stream, join the Comic Book Debate stream, subscribe. You can hit the notification bell if you want to be the first to know to our next videos. We got a lot of stuff coming in March, like an insane amount of content, like packed into 1 month. So I'm very excited you guys to see it as we kind of cover Justice League and everything that's going to be spiraling out of that. So a lot of fun stuff ahead. We appreciate you guys jumping on board. Let us know in the comments other thoughts you have about any of the topics we discussed. And if you guys are interested in this topic, discussing it more, we'll talk about it next week again. This is something that's going to be a big topic week after week. Am I rambling, Umar? Am I not wrapping up in time?
Yeah, you're rambling.
All right, you wrap us up, Umar. Wrap us up. Do my last line.
Why don't we let Samir do it?
Samir, do the last line.
All right. Well, the new Attack on Titan episode is out, so we got to go watch it. All right.
That's good enough. All right.
That's right.
From myself, from Zion, from Umar, and Samir, we're the Faruqi brothers. We'll see you next time.